Hi, I'm Natalie Morales. So, in a nutshell, I'm a radio host turned reading tutor turned entrepreneur.
Hello and welcome to Obehi Podcast. I'm your host, Obehi Ewanfo, and I strongly believe that everyone has a story to share. Now let's get started with this episode.
I'm a reading interventionist and founder of Laughing People Learn. I am from Trinidad and Tobago and we are in the Caribbean. I had been in the media for over 20 years and I was a part-time reading tutor. And 2 years ago, at the start of the pandemic, I decided to take my business online. So today, I tutor kids from across Trinidad and Tobago, as well as certain parts of the United States.
You do it both in Trinidad and Tobago and also in the US. That's
Correct.
cool. Meaning you have a bigger audience now, right?
I do. I'm able to because we are online. So I'm not in the physical, so I can spread my wings a lot further.
That's interesting. All right, Natalie, do you want to tell me a little bit about yourself? I mean, your background, because we tend to do this quite often. That we try to know more about the person behind the brand. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Yeah.
Yes. So I have a passion, and I always say teaching reading is my thing. So years ago, I remember, and I'm telling you why I also got involved in teaching of reading. I remember years ago, our primary school teacher, elementary school, would take us outside for reading. We'd have our read alouds then. And I remember our teacher would pair us off to read, and that was long before I guess paid reading was even a thing. And she would pair the good readers with the not so good readers. And of course, I had a partner. And I don't know what I did in that moment, Obehi, but whatever I did worked. And I realized that reading was my gift. And as I became older, especially when I had my son, so my son will be 15 this year, and especially when I had my son, I had this burning desire all along to understand what it takes to teach someone to read. And that's when I realized that reading is not natural. We must learn to read. And I enrolled in the teaching of reading program at the University of the West Indies right here in my country. And that's when I started teaching my son to read because he was reading fluently. And when I mean reading fluently, reading anything, including my Bible, the newspaper, anything at the age of 4. And I decided to share that with others. And I started doing it part-time. I was working in the media. I was also working at the bank in the training department. And I worked as a private reading tutor then all the way up to 2 years ago when I took my business online. So coming through that entire time, and because I have my own business now, I can go back to my experience as working as a radio host. I also go back to my experience as working in the bank in the training and organizational department, as well as a communication specialist at another company in the energy sector. So that's a little bit about my background. Then I have also done a lot of reading programs, including programs from the University of London, Reading Interventionist program. So I do believe in self-development as I continue to grow and continue to be my best and offer the best to my clients.
Oh, right. That's interesting. Now, reading is not natural. I pick on that. Can you expatiate on that? What do you mean by that?
Right. Now, Obehi, we were born to speak. So if you leave, and I like to say this, if you put a baby in a library, that baby will never learn to read because reading is taught. Our brains were not wired to read, so we must be taught reading. However, if you leave that same baby in a room, people are talking, that child will learn to speak. So it's something like those like wolf babies, that the child will learn to speak and even behave like a wolf, but we will not learn, we will not read just by being around books, and that's why it must be taught. And something that was very alarming when I started this years ago, I was in the program with teachers. I was actually the only person who was not a teacher. My son was just 2 years old then. And I thought I was in the wrong class, because why would that program be for teachers, teaching of reading? And that's when I realized that reading was not taught, and still isn't to some extent, in most schools. So you see the need for reading tutors, the need for reading interventionists, because it must be taught.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Now, who do you direct? Okay, first of all, tell me a little bit about your business. And now we understand what you do, what your passion for it. Explain your business a little bit to me, for people that are listening, to understand also how they can benefit from what you do.
Yes. So I am a reading interventionist, and all my students are online. So it's an online business. So people who want my services, they come online, and here's where I start. I start with an assessment, getting to find out where the child is. So I find out the child's zone of proximal development, and it simply means where the child is at, the child's reading level, as well as the child's understanding level. So I am big on listening to errors, so I know where I'm going to begin and I know where to correct. And I do that with a lot of patience. So let's say I'm doing a reading program, and I'm working with a child, and the child sees met, M-E-T, and keeps saying mit. Then I will not say the child needs to know his letter sounds or all of them. Then I'll just work on the E and I'll work on the I, just to solidify that sound, and we work from there. So when I begin, I First, I see where the child is at. I teach the vowel patterns, because they are 6-syllable patterns. I show the child that words are made up of patterns. And once that child is able to identify those patterns, and he knows how to, so in our culture, we say break up the word. Once that child knows how to properly break up the word, then that child would be able, so a child who can read the word cat can read words like fantastic, can read words like establish and so on, by just looking at the various patterns. So for example, let's say a word like cat, which is a CVC word, that belongs to the closed pattern. Consonant, vowel, consonant. And that's a closed pattern where that consonant squishes that vowel, and that vowel says its short sound. Now, in order for a child to know what the soft sound is, those things must be taught explicitly, and it's also supported by science, because everyone now is talking about the science of reading. So it's also making that child aware of the short sounds, the long sounds, as well as the jargon associated with reading. So the child feels empowered because he or she is part of it, they're engaged, and it's just one whole big connection. And as I move along, I use nonsense words. And what I mean by nonsense words, let's say, for example, that child can read cat, and I add Z, and I put Z-A-T, that's that. Now, if that child can read that, but cannot read that, if the child can read cat but cannot read that, then I'm going to start thinking twice now. Does the child really understand the concept? Can he manipulate those sounds in words? And that's why I use nonsense words. And a lot of other tutors use nonsense words as well for testing, just to see where, to measure the child's success and improvement.
That's good. That's good. All right. You did say before that your child started to read at the age of 4.
Yes.
And you also did make mention of the fact just now that made mention of the word, the science of reading.
Yes.
So I'm trying to understand from when are children supposed to start reading, and when is this supposed to be considered as a deficiency, if we were to put it like that?
Yes, such beautiful questions, Obehi. Now, a child can start reading from the age of 2.5 or even 3. And I'll tell you what, from the moment that child starts picking up, or even younger, from the moment that child starts picking up books and turning the pages and just starts reading the pictures even, because reading starts with phonemic awareness. And phoneme means sound. So it's really sound awareness. So when a child can rhyme, and I'd like to say this, and I say, if your child can rhyme, then your child can read. If your child is not rhyming, then your child will be struggling to read. And some parents think that does that even make sense? And then I do an assessment, or I ask them, ask your child what rhymes with cat. And then they realize that the child cannot rhyme. So reading begins with that sound awareness, learning to rhyme, knowing where those first words came from. And that's how I started teaching my son to read. This is the table. Let's go to bed. Come on, let's change into your pajamas. And all of those are sound awareness, making the child very much aware that letters are made up of sounds, and we read those sounds, because if we read letters, then we would not be able to get the word. However, if we read sounds, we would be able to get the word. So if we read, so there's a TikTok video that always makes me laugh. The child read R-A-T, Manikou. Now, Manikou is a big rat, for those who don't know. R-A-T, Manikou. Because the child read letters and not sounds, right? So that's where reading really begins, phonemic awareness. It's the prerequisite. So once a child understands where the first sound comes, the word is cat. What's the first sound? K. The word is cat. Let's get that middle or medial sound, ah, and then the initial sound. So I want you to picture it, Obehi. If a child can picture that and knows where each sound comes, especially in those 3 sound words, do you see how spelling will be improved? Because it's almost as if those letters will just be jumping out now of those sounds. And that's where reading begins. Reading begins as well with the parents or the adult reading to the child, so that they start understanding this is what fluency sounds like. And that's where reading begins. And parents can teach their children to read. There are some skills. Let's say, for example, those phonemic awareness skills. If your child is unable to rhyme and you realize that that's the issue, in a big class, it might be really difficult for that teacher to teach your 9-year-old to rhyme at that particular stage.
All right. So if you discover that situation, what are you supposed to do about it as a parent in order to help the child and also to help the child and of course the school?
So you can help your child by, and there is so much information that's online, and we don't want to be overwhelmed either. So what parents can do, parents can have a conversation with the teacher, as well as parents can have a conversation even with their pediatrician to realize, am my child meeting the milestones? Look back as well to look back, just throw your mind back. Was there any kind of delay? Was there a speech delay? Was there a delay in terms of the child having challenges with left and right? Did the child have challenges in following instructions? Very, very simple instructions. And did it go on for a long time? So we want to look at those, as well as we also want to make sure. So one, it could be dyslexia, as well as it could be that the child just did not learn. And as I said, reading must be taught. And if reading is not taught, then the child will not know to read. And on the other hand, 1 out of 5 children in, let's say, in a classroom is dyslexic. And what are some of the signs? So dyslexic, so what does that really mean? It means that it's not associated and it has nothing to do with the child's intelligence. Even Einstein was dyslexic. So it has nothing to do, and that's the strong message I want to send to parents. If your child has trouble reading, any kind of challenges reading, and someone tells you, let's say he's assessed, or you look for those risk factors and you see that it is pointing in that direction, it has nothing to do with your child's IQ, nothing to do with intelligence. It just means that your child may have some problems reading. However, if it's taught explicitly, if reading is taught clearly, we just have to rewire the brain. Maybe that child does not learn as everyone else, in the sense that I show you, Obehi, this is A, and it says ah. Really, what does that have to do with anything? So once you make it connect, go around the house, apple, and the child would be able to read. Any child can be able to read once taught.
Thank you for that. But I'm trying to understand at what age is this supposed to be considered a problem? So maybe, I don't know, the age of 4, the age of 5, the age of 6. Maybe you'll be trying to make this correction in the house, and at the point, which point are you supposed to say, okay, this has become really a problem?
Right. So years ago, the age was at 8. And now science is saying that you can have a child assessed for dyslexia at the age of 5, as early as the age of 5. And we also, and parents are also asked to be extremely observant. What are the delays? Do you realize that you're teaching the child, you're doing a letter sound, and the child is just not gravitating towards it? So parents can look out for some of those things, but definitely an assessment can take place, right, at the age of 5. You can have a diagnosis for dyslexia at the age of 5. Because I am not a psychologist, I cannot do an assessment. I can't give a diagnosis. However, there are the risk factors.
All right. I think on your LinkedIn page, I read something in the line of reluctant reader. I don't know if you want to say anything about that.
Right. So let's say, for example, right, so reluctant readers who become tired when they read, students who become anxious while they read. And that's a big factor because they struggle so much. They sometimes, even after the instruction, once they see a lot of words on a page, let's say they see an entire paragraph, they get cold feet. It's as if they get cold feet. The anxiety is real. And they would have struggled with self-confidence as well, probably even in the classroom where the other students might laugh, or the teacher might ask a question and probably just move on. Or once they realize that a child is picking and staying a long time to read. Of course, let's take our minds back. What happened in our day? In, let's say, in elementary school, when a child struggled to read. So when a child struggles to read, so I work with struggling readers, and they're really students who, they have problems reading, and they just need to find other ways, clear ways, in a safe atmosphere where they come online and we can start from what's a vowel. This is a consonant. And also giving a lot of goals. And those give a goal, and that's from April McMurtry. I'm also a licensed reading tutor with her. Give a goal is really giving the child information, not just allowing them to guess, but giving them clues so that they'll also be able to make a more informed decision when they answer, a more informed guess. Let's say, for the use of a better word, when they respond.
All right. Now, for maybe a situation where the children might not be catching up that much, because, okay, you've been doing this for over 20 years, reading, and of course, I want to say that you understand also the science behind it, because this is what you do. What can you say maybe are the reasons behind some of this deficiency in some children who are not able to catch up in terms of their reading, or if you want to even add comprehension? Of course, I was coming to comprehension later on.
Yes. Now, there's still a lot of research being done on dyslexia. There's still a lot of research going on in that area. But here's how it can affect reading comprehension. Let's say a child is reading, but he takes a long time to decode or sound out the word while he reads. Now, if I were to speak with you, he takes a long time. We don't speak like that. So because that reading is labored and choppy, and the child is focusing so much in decoding or sounding out that word, then the comprehension, so it's not as if the child has problems with understanding per se, because if the adult were to read that passage to the child would be able to answer all of the questions. But because it's so delayed, because the child is only focusing on getting the word, the child is unable to understand the passage. And that's where the reading comprehension challenges come into effect.
Oh, all right, that's good. In fact, that is what I was actually thinking of trying to understand. Now, what is the best approach to, um, what is the best way to approach reading comprehension for children, say maybe 5, 6, 7 years to help them? Okay, every child, like story, I have a child of 4 years. Every evening before we go to bed, they usually come to me.
Yes.
He want me to tell him story. Okay, just the story is very very fascinating to him. No, so all right. Now let's put it. What are the right way to approach reading comprehension for children of this age?
And Obehi, I just have to tell you, you are on the right track because that's where reading begins. Building lifelong readers so that they can really appreciate reading for the rest of their life. Now, a lot of students, their only experience with reading is doing phonics drills. Come and read. Come and pick up a book. Come do some reading. And they read and they're already struggling. However, they've never been able to experience reading for enjoyment, where you can be read to by the adult who is around. And that's the sad fact. So even when we use those decodable books, and when I mean decodable books are books like A Cat Sat on a Rat. Those are decodable books. Even with those, we can allow children to have a mind movie. Think about that while I read. So have a movie in your mind so it brings the passage to life, as well as we're always asking what, when, who was it, what did they do? As simple as the passage is, even with a 4-year or 5-year-old, we can ask those questions to see what they're thinking and see where they're going with that, to make the connection. Do you know what this means? Never take anything for granted. Pull out words, make sentences, and that's how we can also improve reading comprehension.
All right, that is important for me now. Um, I want to try to understand also from your point of view, what is it that you really enjoy in reading with children?
I enjoy meeting each child every day because I learn so much from them as well. And sometimes I say, I don't know every word in the world. True, miss, you don't? No, I don't. And in my classroom, I teach them that it is okay to make a mistake. So if they make a mistake, what can we do? We can try again. And it's meeting that child, a child who probably doesn't even know a letter sound, a child who cannot even read the word it, but in that same moment, a minute or two after, that same child who couldn't read the word it or cat can read the word fantastic. And to see those moments, those light bulb moments where they figure things out and where they come into their own, and you realize that that same shy child is no longer a shy child. They can read another word and they can make sense out of things around them. So I live for that every single day. So because of the vacation now, I am fully booked. I'm booked to capacity. I cannot take another student. And I've decided to offer myself to have some free sessions at our public library on Saturdays for 5 weeks during the vacation, because we have about 8 weeks during the vacation. So I'm doing 5 weeks of that. It would be my only class that I would be having in the physical. So I'm looking forward. I just love seeing those light bulb moments, Obehi. It is, it's amazing. It's really amazing. Just allowing them to come into their own. I live for that every single day.
That's lovely. It's rewarding. If you do a job that is rewarding,
Yes.
it's like you're not working.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, my curiosity, how are these children able to connect with you? First, tell me, in what age grade do you work with, between what and what range?
Yes. Now, ideally, my age range, and I would always market that from the age of 7. And I realized with the pandemic, I started working with children even younger because of that phonemic awareness. And I said, you know what? Let me take students who are younger. They may not be my ideal client, but let me take them, because if I don't do it, no one else will. So that's something that I'm big on, that phonemic awareness. And it's something that I show parents when the child is on. That's something that they see that the child is unable to rhyme, and once right there on the spot, I show this is the onset. So the onset is the first letter in the word, and the rhyme RIME is what we see from the vowels onwards after that onset, which is the first letter. So let's say in a word like cat, C is the onset and AT is the RIME rhyme. So what changes? So for some, and even for adults, we tend to think that that's natural, but that's AT. And then BAT, that's AT. That child should be seeing that. But for some children, we have to make them aware of that. And once we tell them, remember, everything is clear and we do not assume or should not assume anything. So once I give a list and I teach them that rhyming concept, take a look at that. Let's look for everything that's the same. Now let's look for everything that's different. What's different? And then I would ask them, so I would write a list of, let's say, at, or whatever that family is. Word family is, for example, at or am, and then I would ask them, come, give me a consonant, give me another consonant, and I'd fill that up with B, C, D, all the way down, and I'd just say, this word is cat, let's go down, and then that child is going down from there, just by knowing that, understanding that rhyming concept. So that's, and then teaching word families become easier because of that. There's something that I forgot to mention as well, which is very important in terms of teaching reading comprehension, looking for context clues. And first we talk about clues. What are clues? I probably show them a picture of Sherlock Holmes. What are clues? And in particular, what are context clues? So sometimes they also struggle with vocabulary. So whenever you see that big word, let's say that word is picturesque or whatever that word is, hear this. Things are always happening for you. Look out for the meaning of that word, a definition of that word, or the opposite meaning of that word right after that word that you don't know the meaning of. And once you start telling them that, look, everything is going to be great because there's a word right thereafter, or to tell you the meaning of that word. So we look out for context clues in a reading passage. So that also helps with reading comprehension. But for some students, you have to make them aware of that. It's not as obvious as we would like to think.
Natalie, have you ever worked with maybe also adults who are trying to improve their reading comprehension or just reading in general sense?
Yes, I have. And especially during the pandemic, Obehi. And that's because I realized that there was a real need for it. Because before I mainly worked with children in the elementary school. So I do work with adults. I have adult students and even teenagers. I work with teenagers a lot more now. And they're free to not turn on their cameras, to save face, because I don't want them to feel embarrassed at all about it, because it can be it's a touchy topic. It's very sensitive. So I have one adult, and I remember we did a reading project some time ago where we were reading fables, and I told the other guy, because he sent her to my class, our producer, and I said, who is the teacher and who is the student again? Because she was excellent. And here's where the problems came in, the challenges. The challenges came in for her, and her mother realized she had challenges from reading the Bible. So one, at school, she would ask the children, can you read that for me? And she's quick. She's extremely brilliant. So she would memorize the passage and she would read the passage, well, for the teacher as well as for her mom. And one day, so she was a good reader, quote unquote, good reader. And one day her mom asked her to read the Bible. And that's when her mother realized, and it was the King James Version as well. So can you imagine the difficulty also? And that was when her mom realized that she couldn't read, and her mother would beat her for not being able to read. And as an adult, with my adult students, I I have different reading passages, different reading text. So they might read menus, we might do an online form, a registration form, whatever form that's online, sign up for online banking, all of those things. And when on that day when we were reading those Bible passages, you would not believe she started to hyperventilate. And I realized that's what was causing it. It took her back to when her mother beat her for not being able to read. And I had to tell her, your mom is not here. You are an adult now, and it's okay. That's okay. And think about, listen to yourself while you're reading. Do not be anxious. And if your mom were here, because her mom knows about her reading challenges now, she's also older, so she understands. And that's how I had to talk her out of it. But Obehi, the anxiety is real. And it's a message that I send to adults, the adults especially in the children's lives. Do not say things like phrases like that's easy or that's the word there. I taught you this today. We did that yesterday. Look it right there. That's the same word. Please do not. It might seem like the obvious to us, but it's not the obvious to them. They are struggling and they are trying. They're trying their best. They are trying hard. And that's something I tell adults all the time. Look and see what they're doing. Sometimes adults might say lazy. They become lazy. But with dyslexia, a child might actually feel tired while he or she is reading. So to every adult, look at that. Look up what dyslexia is. There's so much information. There's a film that's called Mical, M-I-C-A-L, Mical the film. I encourage everyone, especially if your child struggles to read, even if your child doesn't, but let's say you're a teacher or even a parent who is impatient, look at that film. And whenever I look at it, it brings tears to my eyes all the time. It's Mical the film, where a parent taught her child to read because he was dyslexic and he was being dubbed as a troublemaker. And I don't want to be a spoiler, but long and short, he's now a doctor, and they have a foundation that's called the Nessy Foundation, Nessy, and they give tons of great resources for reading and students who struggle with reading.
Yeah, that's a very good one. A very good one. All right. Can you, because you work on both eyes now with both young and also adult, can you tell me if there are differences in the comprehension or because when they come to read, the objective at the end of the day is that they know how to read when they come to you. Can you tell me if there are differences in their level of growth, learning how to read?
And sometimes it's pretty much the same in that it's that fluency that keeps them back, as well as vocabulary, not knowing what a particular word means or not knowing that they can find out what that word means just after. So in reading, it's important to always ask yourself, and I tell my students, do not go on to the next line if you do not, especially if it's a reading. Well, we read to understand. So if we're reading and we are not understanding what we read, then learning is not taking place. I have a student, he's a teenager, and I'm listening to him reading and he's making mistakes, adding words, deleting words, and it's not making sense. Does that sound right? Let's read that again. Does that make sense? Are you listening to yourself while you're reading? And he said, oh gosh, Miss, thanks for reminding me. I forgot to listen to myself. So just as I keep saying, I take nothing for granted. Do not take it for granted that some people are listening to themselves while they read. So there are many, many factors. Listen while you're reading. Have a mind movie so that it comes to life and you can see the man walking. So the man is walking down the street. Can you picture that man? Are you seeing that man walking down the street? And then we can talk about where he's going and so on. So that comprehension will make sense.
Right, that's great. Now, another thing that I'm also thinking as you were explaining that is that for the fact that maybe a child lives in a kind of a closed environment, or maybe another child might live in an environment that is full of images. Okay, I understand that there are images everywhere, but when you go out to nature, you begin to see different things, maybe things you understand, things you don't understand. Compared to a child that might be living in a place with limited, object or things to see. Does it in any way affect how a child might learn faster to read or to comprehend what is reading?
Well, I'll tell you this, and I'll answer this way. I remember being a private tutor years ago, and I would go into their homes, and they'd be comfortable because I was going into their environment. And what I noticed is that the homes were spick and span, clear of any books. There were no books in sight. And from the moment I started with them, the books started coming out. And I'm glad you asked me that question, Obehi, because it's an opportunity to tell parents, put books everywhere. Put a book on the table. Put a book in the living room. Put a book in the television room. Put a book on the couch. Put books everywhere. The child is going out, you're going for a ride. Hey, do you have a book? You might have to stand in line, and monkey see, monkey do. Let them see you reading as well. Create a reading corner. It is not the corner where you go to do your phonics drills or your homework per se, but that's the reading corner. That's the and it can even be a chair. But that's the area in the home where everyone goes to read, where the child notices the parent reading, and the child would go, even the young ones, the 1 year and 2 year olds in the home, just picking up a book and sitting with it and turning the pages. That's the beginning of reading. So all of those things we can do. And visualization is supported by science and the science of reading, as I keep talking about. When we visualize, things happen. Let's say, for example, we want something we are thinking about the future. This is what I want for my business. If we can visualize that, tell me what's going to happen. More than likely, it is going to happen for us because we can see it. We can see it through our mind's eyes. When we visualize, it becomes more real to us.
That is powerful. That is powerful. Yeah, absolutely, it's powerful. All right, another thing I'm trying to sort of understand now, looking at it from the point of view of business, because in this podcast, most of the people that are following us are in business. Some of them are just starting, some others have been there. They're looking for a way to become better, to get more from their business adventure.
Yes.
So, can you tell us something about how you set up this business? How does it run for you as a business so that you're not just doing it and then going to do some other work to pay for your bill and all that?
Yes, it's what I do full time, and I've been doing that since the pandemic started. And when I realized that I had to take my business online, I started Googling and I came across a reading tutor coach, the best, and she's Joanne Kaminsky. And I enrolled in her program. And immediately I knew that, hey, I can no longer see this as a part-time business. I can not just think that, hey, I teach reading. No, it is my business. And it took a lot, and this is something that the course did as well, just removing that imposter syndrome, removing those feelings of self-doubt. And I remember part of the program, one of the assignments was writing a letter to my future self. And we had to feel, how does my future self feel? What does my future self see? And what does my future self thank me for? For setting the part, for sticking with it. And writing that letter, I knew that, hey, this is what I'm seeing, this is what I want, and this is what I will do to get there. So it made me become more focused. So I'm not here, there, and scattered brain and doing everything because I feel, or doing this in this particular way. There's an order, there's a sequence, and my thoughts, my actions must be conscious. So no longer am I getting up any time that I want. I want to get up like a millionaire. I want to get up very early in the morning, and I want my thoughts, my actions to be conscious. So I have a 90+ goal planner. And when I get up on mornings, I write 5 things in that planner, the 5 things that I want to do for the day. And at night, I cash out. I check in, I cash out. What did I accomplish? What do I need to go over? Did I need anything? What kept me back from doing this? So it took a lot of that. It was really a change in mindset for me. It was also a matter of looking at how much should I charge. Obehi, listen to this. When I started, I charged $28 per month. That's $200 in my money, 200 TT. So 28 US per month. I had about 29 or 30 students. So yes, I was getting by. However, when I got rid of that imposter syndrome, when I got and I realized that the value that I offer, I moved from that 28 US per month to $50 an hour, realizing that, hey, Natalie, this is your gift. From then to now, I've spent over 20,000 TT dollars in self-development. I am always on a webinar, always making sure that I am with my peers. I'm with my other tutor colleagues from around the world. I can stand on my own. Whenever a child comes online, and I use the Zoom platform whenever, as well as Koala. And that's another platform where it's built for kids. So I use those platforms. So whenever I come online, it has to be something that the child is not seeing on a daily basis. I am different. I'm the unicorn in my business. And we also looked at being online versus in person. And I said I am not going to downplay my worth, and it's not because I'm not offering anything less significant when I am online, because that came up after the pandemic we're not over yet, but we are back out in person. Are you still online? And some parents were asking, oh, I wish it were, I wish you were doing in person. And I would just grab my powder bag, put on my lipstick, powder my nose, and Obehi, I'd get online just to show that parent what on teaching reading online, or what reading online, or what online learning can be, how engaging it can really be. Having an accountability partner is excellent. Part of the program that I did, I had accountability partners, one from Germany as well as Canada, and we held each other accountable. I remember as well doing testimonials. I'd never gotten testimonials before because I thought we are so small. We're just a little dot on the map. And maybe my client would not want anyone to know that their child struggles, and that's why they're using my service. So I'm not going to ask them for a testimonial because we're too small. And Obehi, I started asking because they would give me their testimonials. They would probably WhatsApp or call. And I started asking. And you know what? They started giving. They did not mind because their child was no longer struggling. Their child was coming into his or her own and coming into reading confidence. So it's really about shaking off that imposter syndrome and telling yourself that, hey, no, this can't happen. This can't happen. But really making things happen.
Now, you understand that what you are doing for the people have a lot of value. And of course, you can price it, put money on it. Mm-hmm. That is also what separates you from the person who is working for somebody. Because the person decides how much he's going to pay you. Mm-hmm. And what is even this market economy anyway? Is creating value. If you create value, then you can put value. You can put the money. This is how much I want to charge, because I know that it is valuable. I really like that. That is important.
Yes, that is definitely important. And let's say, for example, people who are just starting out, you don't need a big plan. You don't need anything complicated. A one-page business plan, change your mindset, have a one-page business plan. And I am also trying to move away from just having my online courses, because I am still exchanging time for money. In doing so, there are only so many students that I can take. So I am moving towards creating courses. I have created my first course, and I am moving towards creating more courses. So we're getting rid of those excuses that we might have. I'm just from the Caribbean. I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. Trinis will not pay that. I've moved away from all of those things. And I show up. I try to show up all the time. I'm on TikTok. I learned about engine optimization, TikTok, how to use Instagram. Imagine empathy map. I'm teaching reading. I'm looking at empathy map because we have to map out those things. Empathy map. What is our client saying? When a parent calls me, I take a note. What is that parent saying? My child struggles. That's SOE right there. SEO rather. That's a keyword right there. I can hashtag that, struggling reader, or and so on. So we have to listen to what our clients are saying.
That's true.
And elephants don't bite. It's the little things that bite. So get on it and do it every single day. Make your thoughts, make your actions very, very conscious. I try speaking the language of gratitude at all times. Because I am a reading tutor, because I do online, there are only, as I said, so many students that I can teach during the daytime. And I believe in collaboration versus competition. So I pass on my students to other tutors and I don't know them. It's that kind of online relationship that we have. However, I know that they have a heart. I know that they want to do better for and by their children, by their students, because they also attend workshops that I have. So I know that they want to make a difference. And that's my tribe. That's my tribe. Yes.
And that is what it's all about. That is what it's all about. All right. Now, another curiosity I was having is that your business, was it intentionally designed to be online, or is it because of the COVID-19 that dragged a lot of people online? Help me with that.
COVID-19, as well as I worked as a radio host, but in that pandemic year, my employer did not renew my contract. So I knew that I had to do something. And because I had always been good in teaching children to read, it's my love, I said, that's it. That's what I'm going to do. I will take my business online. When I started Obehi, I started on my phone because my other laptop, the video would not come on my other laptop. So I started with my phone. And immediately after, I bought another laptop and I started going online. What's the best practice? How do you teach children how do you show up online and so on? And that's how my business started. So it started out of a need. And I am happy that it did. I thank God every day. Thank God that my contract was not renewed. So I could now do what I love and make a lot more money doing it as well.
And that is lovely.
Yeah.
And that is what it is. You are rendering a service to the society. You deserve to be paid.
Yes, things are not happening. Things never happen to us. They always happen for us. And that's what we have to believe.
You see, sometimes we stay there and we are complaining that, okay, this bad thing happened to me. Sometimes it's just a question of you reframing it and giving it an interpretation, giving it meaning, giving it word, then it can live.
Yes.
So, like you're saying, if they never sack you from the work, if they never maybe fail to renew the contract, you will still be there working for them, thinking that that is all that you can do. Yeah. But that is not all that you can do. You can actually do more, and now you can see for yourself. That is also maybe for the people that are listening to us today. We do have a lot of classes, online training classes, where we teach people who are just starting out in business or how to go about their business, from email marketing, how to find your niche, how to brand yourself, and things like that. So it is very important that people understand this basic. If maybe, for example, today, the online business was no longer there.
At the start of the pandemic, it was designed to be online, but I'll tell you what, I am not coming offline.
Thank you for that.
I am not coming offline.
You see, even me in my podcast, okay, it's true that I'll be doing most of my interview. When I was this project actually is coming from a research that I'll be doing here for a couple of years about the presence of Africans in northern Italy. In the beginning, of course, I have to deal with people that are here physically because I just go with my camera, we set it up then and do the interview and all that. Yeah. Went to different universities and talk to different people to be able to collect the data. But when I started to talk to people using Zoom, I realized that I'm never going to do another thing again. So when the pandemic is over and everything is restored back. Even before the pandemic hit, I've already been doing some of the interview online, so I already see the value for it.
Yes.
So it helped me a lot. Look at all the people that I'm able to talk to. Look at you. You are
Correct.
in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes.
How much will it cost me to move from here in Italy, where I live, to meet you and do this interview with you? I talk to people from US, UK, Nigeria, in different parts of the world on a regular basis. I couldn't do this by just moving there. I'll be talking to these people. Even if I'm a billionaire, I still cannot do that. So yeah, me too. I'm not going out online. So this is the time to be here.
Let's drink to that. Let's say cheers. Yes, we're not coming offline.
All right. So you said something about the business plan before, but what about the nitty-gritty of the business, like how to research about your audience, how to really know who you are even serving? Do you want to say something about that, at least in your experience?
Good. So I niche down. So even though I do teach adults to read as well as teens, I market elementary school as well as younger children, but I market elementary school. So I find my audience, let's say when I appear on TikTok, I am so niche down because everyone knows that this is what I do. I teach reading. So I don't do reading one day and the next day I'm cooking or the next day doing a fashion show or anything like that. And that's how I'm able to find my audience. I teach reading. Reading is my thing. So if your child struggles with reading, I'm your person. I'm your go-to person. So I find my audience like that because it is aligned. I don't need 1 million people to follow me. But what I need and what this is what I've been seeing, and this is something that I saw from my other tutor group. There is a woman, she's Esme Lozano, and Esme teaches Instagram. She calls herself, so I said, Esme, Instagram is your jam. And Esme at the time was not over 400 followers on Instagram. She's more now, but at that time she was not over 400. And she called herself the Instagram queen. And that's because her followers weren't just followers or fans. She was able to make a lot of money with those followers, with those fans, with those clients. So we don't need 1 million people following us. We just need the right people following us. Our clients, our clientele, people who want us. And she has clients from around the world. She charges a lot of money. She makes a lot of money, even teaching on Instagram. And we just have to believe in what we do. We don't just do it for the likes. We give value and people will notice. People will notice and we will be better for it.
Absolutely. I like that. All right. Tell me about how you are able to deal with the children online. How is the environment for you? How easy is it? And because I know children can really be, they need a lot to be able to deal with them physically, but online. Do you need a parent to stay with them? Help me understand that.
Oh gosh, what a question. And I'll tell you why. Now, during the pandemic, some parents stayed very close to the children. And I'm talking about in general now. Some parents stayed very close to the child. Some parents told the child every single answer. So they were all A students online. And by the time they got back to school, they were F, right? They were failing students. So I would always tell parents, never helicopter, but help. So when I have my students, the parents can be around. It depends on the parent. It depends on the child. Because some children, they're okay with their parents because they know that they can make mistakes. So the parents who I don't really like being around are the anxious ones. Hey, focus, concentrate. I do not tell my students focus. I do not tell them concentrate. Because I'll tell you what, Obehi. There's something called Zoom fatigue. And I remember I remember doing the newsletter for my son's school, and I had an interview with one of our psychologists here, Dr. Varma, Dr. Varma Dialsing. And Dr. Dialsing said, here's what causes Zoom fatigue. If we are online it's, let's say we were online and I had my camera off. I would have to look directly in that camera. Now, that's very unnatural. However, if we're online and the camera isn't off, or let's say we're in person, I could put my hand through my hair. I could even scratch an itch if I wanted to. And that may not look, but I could look away a little bit and look at you, and that's not unnatural. It doesn't seem unnatural. But for some teachers, if the child looks away, or if the child scratches an itch, that looks like disobedience. It looks like the child is ill-mannered. You're not paying attention, focus. And that added a lot of stress and anxiety to children. And then the teacher would say, focus, pay attention. And then the parents also felt like that was their role. And I keep telling them, that's something you would never hear me telling them. Obehi, I taught a child while he was running, doing a happy dance and doing a dab. And that's because he was engaged, he's learning. And sometimes when he's on, his camera isn't on, and I am saying, I wonder if he's rolling in the background, and maybe he is. But that was one of my students who was able to read in about 3 weeks. Everything for him is a happy dance, but learning was taking place because there was no one there to say, hey, focus, focus, sit down, still. Nobody was telling him that. He was being himself, he was learning, and I did not see that as indiscipline. Now, in a classroom, if a child gets up, take your mind back. What happened in your school? Who was the class? Who was the teacher's pet? The child who couldn't stay put, right? And looking back now, those were signs of ADHD and that kind of hyperactive disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And so the child appears to not be able to sit still. The child wants to walk around. The child doesn't wait his turn. And even adults grow up with it. It becomes easier. It becomes less evident as the person matures. But there are children who struggle with that. And by saying, focus, you're not paying attention, that stifles the child. What we need to do instead is teach that child how to self-regulate.
Yeah, that is like I was I was waiting for you to say more of that because it's a question actually I was preparing for you. Yeah. That when children are hyperactive, what are you supposed to do about it? Because you're going to hear the teacher complain, you're going to hear the parent complain.
Yes.
But what is going to be the solution?
All right. So just before I give the solution, Obehi, I'll tell you this. Now, they're what we call people's perception. So people might say the child is badly behaved. The child struggles with attention. Do you know your child doesn't focus? Your child doesn't pay attention. And they don't think that ADHD is a real condition. So all of those are people's perception. And then they may also see it as bad parenting, or you give the child too much snacks. It has to be the food dye. So it has that. Those things have pretty much nothing to do with what you might be seeing. And the solution, some solutions are teaching that child how to self-regulate. One, every day you can have a conversation about appropriate and inappropriate forms of behavior. So I have one of my clients doing up contracts for the child. So Obehi will do homework every day after school, immediately after school or after he eats lunch. Obehi will take a break when he becomes tired after 10 minutes. So Natalie will give Obehi a reward if he completes his work, and so on. So you're getting into a contract now with a child, and then you sign and I sign, and we look and we encourage. So it is a whole reward system. It's an entire reward system. First, though, we should, as well as that, you can also take that child for an assessment. Now, it's quite expensive, and a parent was telling me some time ago that the child was assessed, but the assessment, and that was strange because the assessment was not done with the teacher and the parent. So you have to be looking at this child, observing this child for at least 6 months. And even though they can have, like, let's say, different behaviors, their behaviors can be changed, let's say, in the different contexts, whether it's school or home, but you must be getting that same thing at home and also when that child is at school, where the child, it looks like the child, wait, that child will climb to the highest tree and want to jump off. It's as if he doesn't have a sense of danger. Listening difficulty, a list of trouble following instructions, as well as the child tends to be careless, making careless mistakes. It can really seem like the child not being able to focus, not allowing someone else to finish. The child might seem to always be daydreaming, easily distracted, forgetting everything. I have a student, boring. He's actually my little cousin, boring. He just can't stay put, they're restless. They might want to leave the seat. And that's why our teacher, I don't know, could you remember that, Obehi, what your teacher did with let's say, the teacher's pet? Years ago.
Punishment after punishment. If you grow up in Africa now.
We have similar cultures, and sometimes a parent might even punish, and say yes, they might get a good spanking for that. You have no behavior. I tell you to sit down, you have no behavior. Come, take this. It's no laughing matter. It's no laughing matter at all. And we have to look for those key symptoms. I want parents to feel so empowered. Look out for these signs. Take nothing for granted. Look out. Read a lot. You owe this to your child. And ADHD can look different in boys and girls. So with a boy, that child might be so hyper. And with a girl, that child might just be there, show some signs, might be there and really not present because they're so distracted, but you're not seeing the actual physical signs of those distractions.
All right. Thank you so much for that.
Yes.
Now, for people to connect with you, what are the way? I want you to use these few seconds to advertise your business, tell people how to reach you and what they can benefit by reaching you.
Good. So you can reach me via TikTok. I'm on TikTok, online reading teacher. My name is Natalie Morales. So you can do a Google search. You can find me. I am on Instagram, Natalie Morales. I also have a website, kidsreadinglessons.com. So you can check me out there. I'm on Facebook. I'm almost everywhere. I'm on LinkedIn. So look for me, Natalie Morales. And when you're Googling me, you can also just add Trinidad. All right, to that, Natalie Morales. What will you benefit? I give tips, I give workshops, I host workshops from time to time, workshops for parents. So because I really believe, so my sessions are pretty pricey. However, whenever I have those parent workshops, they are cheap because I do not want to have parents to have any excuse to not attend.
That's good. Make sure you connect it to Trinidad and Tobago. I've interviewed a couple of friends there. Mm-hmm. I'm in love with the country.
Yes.
I just hope that one day I might run there for some holidays.
Yeah, and I think Nicole set the pace nicely. Our diva here in Trinidad, Nicole Farrell.
That's true. All right. So, what would be your final statement here to conclude the conversation regarding children's reading, regarding what you do with children?
Mm-hmm. So my final statement would be, observe everything. Pray for motherly and fatherly wisdom, parents. Pray for parental wisdom. This was an advice I got when my son was probably 1 month old by a priest. He died now, Father Moses, God rest his soul. And that was the advice. He said, Natalie, there would be times when you would not know what to do. Just pray for wisdom, pray for motherly wisdom. And then what would happen? Somewhere down the line, someone or something would be able to confirm that what you did at that time was actually the right thing, was the thing you were supposed to do. And that's how I live. I pray for teacher wisdom every day. I pray for my students. I have a passion for them. I want to see them do well. That's what I live for. I live for those light bulb moments. Look at the choices that we make. Parents, I cannot say it enough. Do not take anything for granted. Are your children meeting those milestones? Continue to push them. Continue to love them. Patience is my superpower. If it's not yours, pray for patience. And this is something that I read. I think it might have been in probably The Compound Effect. We all come into the world the same. After that grand entrance, the life we end up with is simply the accumulation of all the choices we make. Make the right choice today to be the best parent or guardian to your child, to that person that you brought into the world or that you are in charge of.
Thank you so much. That is lovely. That is so powerful. That is a message that must go home. Thank you. I really appreciate the time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
If you enjoy this podcast, make sure you subscribe so you never miss any of our future episodes. Rate and review Obehi Podcast and share with your friends who might need it. I remain Obehi Ewafo. Thank you so much for listening. I'll talk to you in the next episode.